Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast focusing on meditation, the near-death experience, and all things spiritual. Please like, subscribe to this channel, and share everywhere. Thank you. Hello, this is Jay Spillers with Inspire Me with Jay. My special guest today is Robert Parker, who is a hypnotherapist. Hi, Robert. How are you?
Hey there, Jay. I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is J. Robert Parker. I am a clinical hypnotherapist. I've been doing this a couple years now, and it's always the hard part for me. Tell me about yourself. No one likes that part. I was educated at HMI College of Hypnotherapy. That's what the fancy piece of paper behind me is. I got my degree in clinical hypnotherapy and really kind of found my calling in that. And it's funny because, much like I'm sure many people listening, I had no real knowledge of what hypnosis was, and as to how I ended up as a hypnotherapist, it's kind of, I don't know if you call it an interesting story or more just random or the power of the algorithm. But either way, as I said, I have no knowledge of what hypnosis was originally, but I was intrigued because who isn't about hypnosis? It's one of those things that we always see in media and hear about and see the swinging pocket watches and all of that stuff, but oftentimes we don't really know what exactly that was. And of course, I learned what exactly that was and is, and it was something much more normal than I had realized, and much more accessible and much more powerful than it was given credit for. And becoming a hypnotherapist, I truly believe that I found my calling, because I have truly helped people with this modality, we'll call it. And I get a lot of enjoyment from coming on shows like yours and explaining to people what it is I do, what exactly this thing is, because I'm very accustomed to that question of what is this and what do you do? So.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you have a thing where you were going to a hypnotherapist and figured out, wow, this really works. Maybe this is something I could do to help people?
Nope. It is much more random than that. So basically, I was looking for something to go to school for, some way to help people to gain new skills, new knowledge. And one day I was mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, and I don't know what it is that I bought or looked at or anything like that, but an ad for this college came up, HMI College of Hypnotherapy. And I just kind of thought, that's interesting. A hypnotherapist would be a unique job. My life is a series of unique jobs. So I decided to book a consultation. And what I heard was interesting. Some of the things that the course offered, I found absolutely fascinating. So I figured I'll give it a shot. I don't know what hypnosis is, but this is kind of up my alley. That's something that, because I had practiced like sleight of hand and like card magic and things like that. So like, of course, hypnosis pops up whenever you're looking into card tricks and stuff like that, but I never really knew. And the things that I learned within the first couple of weeks of attending that school were mind blowing. The things that I saw, the things that I was learning about what hypnosis actually was and what it was capable of, and seeing the research to support that. That it wasn't just a theoretical thing. This was a what's the word that's used? Evidence-based practice is the fancy word the Department of Health likes to use whenever something works. I guess it would be there's evidence that it works. And so yeah, I had, when I say I had no experience with hypnosis, like previous to going to school to be it, I think that my most thing that I had done is I read a book from 1907 on hypnosis, which was as wacky as you want it to be. But that was about it. Just something told me that that's what I was supposed to do. That I guess that's why they call it a calling. You don't know really why you ended up there, but you're there for a reason.
How long did it take to become a hypnotherapist
For
at the
me,
school?
the course was a year. It is not to endorse HMI or anything. I need to say that right now. This interview is in no way an endorsement for the academy. It's just where I went. And they actually offer, to my knowledge, the most extensive program. I went to school for about a year, and I think all said and done, put in about 850 hours. Not every hypnotherapist out there has that much training. I am just very extra, and figured that if I was going to get trained as something, I was going to get trained as much as possible. Um, so it took me a year. I've seen courses out there that take 6 months. I've seen courses out there that take a weekend. And really, oh yeah, oh yeah. Uh, there's, and that's not to say you learn anything productive, because here's the thing. I could teach a 10-year-old child how to hypnotize somebody in an afternoon. It's not hard. It's that is not the bulk of what a hypnotherapist does. So yeah, you could learn how to trance someone in a weekend, but you don't know anything about what to do with that trance, about how to support it, about how to use conversational hypnosis to bring answers up to the surface, to create a constructive path of that work. You're just a dude that knows how to put someone in a trance. So that's why I wanted as much education as I received, is because I wanted to know. And in my education, probably about, or specifically, I say my education, but at HMI, about 20% of it was spent like actually learning how to induce and deepen trance and what to do, things like that. And the rest of the time was spent with what you do, how to work within like family systems, or somebody that's feeling anxiety, specializations, specific situations. And even then, past that, I've pretty much stayed in school for one thing or another to increase my understanding of what it is that I do. And fortunately, practice at the same time. I've noticed a lot of hypnotherapists just stay in school and don't really see clients, because they just want to, they think they can learn that one thing that'll make them the best hypnotherapist ever, and they never even start. But yeah.
Hmm. Well, do you? Because a lot of hypnotherapists I've talked to, they incorporate things like NLP, or some of
Mhm.
them do
Yep.
RTT. Do you have something incorporated with it that's like that,
Oh
or?
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It is my strong belief that in order to be a good hypnotherapist, you need a basis for your practice. Hypnotherapy is just a technique. Um, I I am currently, I mean, HMI covered a lot of it, but I use EFT, TFT, CBT, RABT, all these alphabet soups that mean absolutely nothing to the layman. But if I were to say what the backbone of my practice is, what informs my dealings with people, it is two things: existential and Gestalt therapy. And basically, those things deal with, if I had to sum it up easily, the notion of the capital S self and the authenticity of that, and how we find authenticity and meaning in the world, which inherently has no meaning. Because, as this question I love to ask everyone, what's the purpose of being human? We don't have one.
Is it to love?
There is no purpose. That's the funny thing. There is no universal purpose that defines humanity. It is individual. And it is that lack of unifying purpose that causes so many people to go astray, because we are stuck in this world to find our own way. We are not all in the same boat, but we are all weathering the same storm, as I like to say. And we have to find our own meaning. We have to create our own meaning, because as existential theory posits, at the core of existence is nothing, is meaninglessness. There is no definable universal rule set that every human being can follow, regardless of what some people believe. So what do you do in the face of that? You create it. You create your meaning, and through that creation of meaning, you use that to find beauty in the world. And yeah, that's not for everybody. Some people found their meaning already, and it doesn't speak to that. And I guess that's not the people that I work with, because one of the things that I realized pretty rapidly as a hypnotherapist, we all, when we're in training, talk about, oh, I want to specialize in this. I just want to see clients for that. And that's, you don't get to make that choice necessarily. You don't get to just say, I'm going to work with smoking cessation and just expect the clients to come. The people that need you are the ones that come to you. The people that need to hear what you have to say are the ones that end up on your client list. And that's part of the importance of that authenticity. The people around you need you to be authentic, need you to be you as much as possible, because somebody needs to hear that. Somebody needs to experience that. Somebody will be helped along their journey of finding meaning by your authenticity. And what do I mean by authenticity? Well, it's not defining yourself by any system of culture, religion, beliefs, any external factor at all. To simply define yourself by your own system of values and thoughts. And that seems so simple at first. But then, as part of that journey, we discover just how much of our definition of self is based upon the expectations put upon us by family, by society, by culture, all of these things. And especially for me, in my past, those things brought a lot of trouble. That attempt to create a self based upon inauthenticity, to find meaning with an inauthentic self. That's why we turn to some of the negative behaviors that we turn on, that we turn to. We struggle with that sense of authenticity. So to to give a rather complex answer and rambling answer to your question, there you go.
I spent several years of my life stressed, anxious, and depressed. I needed to find something that would make my life work. For me, that was meditation. With meditation, I found the peace of mind that I was looking for. I found the happiness, and I found a way to improve every area of my life, my emotional life, my spiritual life, my relationships. I was able to discover things about myself. I can give you the tools to meditate. I will walk you through the process and hold your hand. Whether you're a beginner to meditation who's never meditated, or whether you're someone who's tried meditation and it just never seemed to work, we can make it work. Meditation is something that everyone can do, and I can show you how. Check out my course on meditation. Yeah, I mean, the idea of existentialism gets into philosophy and spirituality and can go pretty deep. And I guess
Well,
at one level, it's very subjective, but it can be very liberating for a person because it's like I don't have to
mhm,
fit a mold. I can create my own mold for myself.
exactly. Um, and that's very important, I believe, especially today, where there is almost an expectation that you fit into a certain understandable mold. And that's not going to jive with a lot of people, at least not when it comes to wellness, of mental health, of creating uh, that, like I said, capital S self, of what that actually means, understanding who you are and what your values are. Um, it can be spiritual depending on the lens you are viewing it through, because you have people like, oh, why is the brain? Well, the main one, Viktor Frankl, tends to be very spiritual. But then you have other existential philosophers like Irwin Yalom, who encourage the rejection of what is referred to as the ultimate rescuer. And that ultimate
Mhm.
rescuer is can be God, can be an unseen spiritual system that always catches you. It's the rejection of that concept, because until you reject that concept of the ultimate rescuer, you cannot find that authenticity. So it really just depends on the individual, which is why it's so important to get this diversity of experience and education as a hypnotherapist,
Mhm.
because everyone needs something different. And it's why I learned a bunch of other modalities in my journey, because everyone needs something different. Some people might respond very well to cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people might not. Some people might respond great to just hypnotic suggestion. Some people need to work a little more to get to the core of their issue. And it's just having that diverse toolkit that is good to give you that lens of understanding to work with whatever is thrown at you.
Well, how closely related is hypnotherapy to regular psychological therapy? Because like you talked about Gestalt therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. That's something you could learn about in psychology itself.
Yes, there is some of that in it. The main line that is drawn with me as a hypnotherapist, I am using these ideas to inform my my lens, so to speak, the way I am looking at people and their problems. But I don't work with any type of anything that a psychotherapist would necessarily work with. I don't work with mental illness or anything like that. My what I tell people is my work is in vocational, avocational self-improvement. That basically just means we're not working on curing anything. We're just working on improving the self. And you do end up using psychological concepts to be able to do that, because you have to. Without those frameworks of understanding to create your maps of the mind, you're just out there wandering lost. And I found that one of the biggest helps to my practice was learning those things, because it gave me a method of personal understanding to view people's issues they were coming to me for. Because you wouldn't think that if somebody was coming to you for weight loss, or to stop smoking, or for greater motivation, that concepts like meaning and the self would come into play. But they absolutely do, more than anything. And it's very useful to have those similar tools. But I like to make it very clear that I am not a psychotherapist. I do not treat any mental illness. I will work with depression and anxiety with a referral from another licensed mental health care professional, but I am not that healthcare professional. I cannot diagnose. I cannot work with mental illness unless under the direct supervision and referral of a psychotherapist or counselor, some such. But yeah, that's part of the fun of being a hypnotherapist, is understanding very clearly where your line is drawn.
So, what is the certification? Who certifies like a hypnotherapist? Because I've seen some that say they're certified hypnotherapists. Who does the
Mm.
certification? Do you have
Well,
licensing? How does
there is
that
no
all work?
licensing. Uh, there is no licensing to be a hypnotherapist, and certification is up to the individual body. Um, and it's very important that when you become a hypnotherapist, that you find a reputable body to certify with. Um, I recently had to change my certifications because my original certifying body ended up having some issues in dissolving. I was part of the actual hypnotherapist union, and there were issues I'm not at liberty to discuss with the organization and its framework, and I ended up having to go somewhere else. And now I am uh, registered with the, what is it? It's a long acronym, the International Certifying Board of Coaches and Hypnotists. And
Hmm.
that's kind of the tricky part, because there is no official licensing. Uh, but there is certification and educational standards for that certification. And it is always good to look into your hypnotherapist certification, certifying body, and just see what are their educational standards. What do they represent? It took me a lot of time because I knew the union was going through problems uh, to find a certifying body that I wanted to represent me. And that's like I had mentioned earlier in the interview, that there's you can become a hypnotherapist over a weekend course, and you'll find some body to certify you. And it's very important, as somebody who is looking for a hypnotherapist, to really speak to that person and ask about their education, and it really just pursue those questions
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that that person is the correct fit for you. Because yeah, I mean, it's not to speak ill of somebody that got their hypnosis certification in a weekend and go work with smoking cessation and have a not great success rate, but you'll still be able to do it. But That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want that to pigeonhole myself into just working with one basic thing. So yeah, everyone look into your hypnotherapist, me included.
Well, it's kind of like being a minister. You have some ministers that go all the way through seminary and have this long process of education, and others that, get a certificate, that's online or something.
Oh yeah, I've
It's
got
almost
one.
like that.
I've got one of those because it was free. But yeah, it's very similar to that notion, and it's important that that person that you speak to be the right person for you, and that's really the primary importance when you are seeking a hypnotherapist. When you are in that consultation, when you are speaking to them initially, does it feel like the right person for you? Do you feel motivated for the change that you want to achieve just by speaking to this person? Because any good hypnotherapist is going to be able to start that ball rolling in somebody just by having a conversation with them. Because not all hypnosis is okay, now we're going into trance, go ahead and sit down and close your eyes. One of my favorite things to ask some of my long-term clients is, when do you think the hypnosis starts? And just the question alone usually gives people a little pause. But the answer is right away. There's a man that is a huge influence to my practice, which you mentioned NLP, and he is one of the people that was used to create the framework for neurolinguistic programming. It's this man named Dr. Milton Erickson. And Milton Erickson was a fascinating man, but he kind of pioneered this concept of conversational hypnosis, that you didn't need a formal induction necessarily to create hypnotic patterns in somebody. You just had to talk, and you just had to know how to speak and how to guide that experience and how to use metaphor. And if anyone familiar with NLP will know about NLP's use of metaphor and things like that to create change. And that's all Erickson. That is 100% lifted from Milton Erickson. A good deal of NLP is, and that's not to speak ill of NLP. I love that stuff. It's very good for creating an understanding of the world around you. And that's really what we're talking about when we're mentioning all of this alphabet soup of tools, the EFT, TFT, NLP, CBT, all, you can just go on. Many of these things are tools of understanding to give people to understand what's going on with them, why they have problems with motivation, why they can't seem to put down cigarettes, things like that. It is creating an understanding, and it is teaching a communication. Like, one of the things I tell people is my job, if I had to truly define in a very short way what my job is, it's I teach you how to communicate with your subconscious. I teach you its language and how to understand it and how to speak with it. Because your subconscious and your conscious mind are on two different planes, I guess you could say, and they speak two different languages. Your subconscious mind does not understand words, language. That is a logical process of the conscious mind. The subconscious mind speaks in symbol, metaphor, emotion. And that's why oftentimes our dreams can appear so bizarre, because depending on when that dream occurs, it's our subconscious attempting to communicate something, but we don't speak its language. We don't understand what those things mean. And that's kind of where I come in. I teach you how the subconscious speaks, how to understand it, and with that understanding, how to communicate with it and create change that's lasting, really.
Hmm. So it's like when a parent or a parent or a teacher sits down with a child that's distraught and is sort of talking soothing to them. Isn't that sort of like a form of NLP, and they're not even
Hmm.
aware of it?
Absolutely. More accurately, it would be a form of hypnosis. Like I
Hmm.
say, and all of NLP's roots lie in hypnosis, whether or not its practitioners will admit it. I can point for point go through an NLP textbook and point out how that's hypnosis, this is hypnosis. All of these meta models and things like that utilize the hypnotic principles. So it's NLP is just a method of understanding for some of the concepts of the subconscious and hypnosis. And I guess you call them backdoors, shortcuts to be able to work with people.
Hmm. How would you define Gestalt, and how do you use Gestalt within hypnotherapy?
Gestalt, see, Gestalt's an odd word in itself. It's a German word that is not readily translatable. And what it means basically is the appearance of something as its whole. And that's kind of why it's applied to self, the wholeness of self. And the way I use this Gestalt theory is to to have people really get in touch with who they are, what their true identity is, how they define that, as I say, capital S self, the proper self. And there's some very interesting techniques that can be utilized with hypnosis and Gestalt therapy. So, to give an example, one of the things that I like to do that is often used in traditional Gestalt therapy, that with when you add the hypnosis, I feel gives it much more impact, is it's called the empty chair technique, where you have someone imagine in the empty chair in front of them is themselves, or an archetype of themselves, and communicate with that. And when you can add hypnosis into that, it is all that much more powerful, because most of my work is discovering and resolving why. Like with smoking, oftentimes I hear, I've tried to quit, or with weight loss, especially, I've tried to lose weight for years and years and years, and just can't. Or I lose it and it comes back, or I stop and I start again. And the difference is that the why is never addressed and resolved. Why do you smoke? Why do you eat? Why do you feel the need to display this behavior? What is the core of this problem? And through the discovery of that core, you can have a change of habit, of behavior, whatever have you. And that requires, in a way, an understanding of that capital S self. And that's where that Gestalt practice truly comes in handy, is helping my clients understand themselves, define themselves, and through that understanding of that why, create that change. Because that's what hypnotherapy is about. And that's really the big difference between hypnotherapy and many other types of therapy. Is hypnotherapy's purpose, its whole purpose in existence practically, is to create change. Whatever change in habit or behavior you want to do, hypnotherapy can do that. because everything in life is association and learned behavior, which is just association through action. And changing that association seems impossible because of that gulf between conscious and subconscious, that disconnect from self. And we bridge that gulf. We create that understanding. We change the associations, and we create the change that you want.
Mm-hmm. So is most of your focus on addictions and
No, not at all.
obsessions?
Not at all. I don't really have a focus. I will work with weight loss. I will work with smoking cessation. I will work with people helping to overcome trauma or past negative associations, help people improve their work life. I will work with people to help improve their relationships. There is really no single thing that I can be defined as like specializing in. And there's many like coaches and therapists and hypnotherapists out there that tell you that, oh, you need to specialize, you need a niche. And like I don't believe that. My belief is I am here to help the people that I resonate with, the people that listen to me speak and believe that I can help them. That's really the only specialty I have. I try not to work with
So
too
it's
much
kind of
addiction. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, so it has kind of similarities to being a life coach too, only you're going at more of a subconscious level.
I wear the hat of life coach pretty often. I have my certification in that, but yeah, it's one of the hats that I wear from time to time. I have clients that most of our work kind of be defined mostly as coaching, but yeah, it would be a fair assessment to look at it like that.
So, in terms of how long does a session last? How long do you usually work with a particular client?
So, this is when of course, this is going to be me personally. Many hypnotherapists have different time frames and things like that. Personally, my sessions are 50 minutes long, 50. And as to how long it takes to create a change, that is unfortunately not an answer I can give, because this is a very subjective thing, because it's people. And I've created profound change in a single session. I've had it take a dozen. It just depends on the person and what we're trying to do. But what I can say, and what really my focus is that from session to session, my goal personally is that my clients see progress. And so while I cannot say how many sessions are needed to do this or that, I can, first of all, caution people away from hypnotherapists that claim we can do this in 4 sessions. There's no way to make that call. There's no ethical way to make that call. But you will see change session to session. You'll know why you are seeing me, because you will see that incremental change, that steady change. Because my big focus, my big thing is like I said, progress, and that no step's too small. One of the things I always like to ask people is, how many things in your life have you not done because you just thought to yourself, that won't do much, that won't do enough? We've all done it. Absolutely. And what I like to follow that up with is, if you had done all of those things that you thought were too insignificant, you thought were too small, how much further would you be right now? And that was one of the things that I learned personally that really kind of struck me, was because I can remember just thinking to myself, I won't go to that class because it's not enough, or I won't try to do this because it ultimately won't really do that much. If you had done all of those things, it would do a lot. And it's all about that progress, putting one foot in front of the other. So, like I said, can't really say how long it will take. And I can't guarantee miracles that we can get things done in a single session. And I'm not going to say we will be working on something forever. It's really subjective. You will know better than anyone else how you're progressing. And I like to touch base with my clients to understand where they are and what we need to do. I uh, I don't take a huge amount of clients. I do have some openings right now, but I specifically keep my client list pretty small because I don't want to overwhelm myself and not be able to give my
Mm-hmm.
clients that attention that they need to be able to create that change. So I don't see too many people at one time just because of that focus. Anyway, got a little tangential there.
Yeah. Well, like with smoking cessation, would you say
Mhm.
most of your clients would be like they go under a hypnotherapy session and they throw their cigarettes out, never smoke again, or is it more like, oh, I've been doing this for 2 or 3 weeks and I went from a pack to half a pack and my
It's
cravings are slowly
progressive.
diminishing? Is it more like that?
It's more like that. Um, and it's about finding why you smoke at the same time. We are creating that support to ramp down your smoking. We're finding out why. And I have a story I like to tell that this client has given me permission, and I've told this story many times, that really illustrates this very well. And that's, I had this woman pretty early in my career come see me or for a consultation for smoking cessation. And as I often hear, I was the last resort. She had tried everything and just couldn't seem to quit chain smoking Marlboro Reds. And remember that brand. It comes into play later. And so we began to work together. And over a couple of sessions, I learned that this woman was very, very close to her grandfather. And this grandfather had died at a pretty young age. And she took that pretty hard. You want to take a shot and guess what kind of cigarettes granddad smoked?
Marlboro
Marlboro
Reds?
Reds. Yeah. And so that association existed, that whenever she smoked, she was subconsciously reminded of the comfort that that man had given her. And so that whenever she was feeling upset or unstable or whatever have you, she sought out those cigarettes without even knowing that she wasn't seeking out the nicotine. She was seeking out that association of comfort. And so at that point, all we had to do was figure out something else that could maintain that association. So we figured out what kind of cologne her grandfather wore. We had her go out and buy a bottle and spray a little bit on a handkerchief she kept in her purse. And whenever she felt that same anxiety that would normally cause her to want to smoke, she simply smelled that cologne, was given that same comfort, and didn't feel the need to smoke. And that's a good illustration because it wasn't just, oh, we're going to make you smoke less. It's, we're going to figure out why you smoke and resolve that. So there isn't really a going back, because that whole reason for that behavior has been resolved. And it's like that for practically everything that I do. because, for example, I'll throw myself under the bus in my own work this time. I had a huge problem with procrastination. And in my own hypnotherapy, because I, of course, have my own hypnotherapist, because that's all I know now is other hypnotherapists. I learned that it came from uh, a specific event, really, but this concept that many smart children come to understand, that I can get things done last minute and it's still of passable quality. That I had created that association that I didn't have to work on anything but the last minute rush, because in that last little rush I could produce perfect quality. I mean, let's go into a little more details. In my brain, you can join me here. So when I was in, I believe it was the third grade, I entered my first science fair. Remember science fairs whenever you were in school, having to do your science project and all of that?
Yeah.
Well, this was the first year that I had to do that. And I forget what my topic was, but I didn't do anything until 48 hours or less before the fair. And I slapped a bunch of things together and I won second place. That with practically no effort on my part, I earned an award. And what did that tell my young brain? It told me that I didn't have to really work on a time frame, that I was capable of creating true quality last minute. And that created this idea of procrastination for my entire life. And then I've since worked on resolving that. That's one of the things that I still work on in my own therapy. But that understanding alone of knowing where that even started, where that came from, created a change, created a positive change of direction, basically. It didn't immediately fix the issue, but it created a new direction to go down using that initial understanding. Like I said, I find that problem really is common with procrastination. Many of my clients who come to me for that, one of the first things I'll ask them is, "You were a really smart kid, weren't you?" "Yeah." "You learned that you didn't have to try that hard to be able to keep up with everyone else, didn't you?" "Yeah." And that's where it comes from. It's finding that root cause. And once you find that root cause, then you can begin to create healthier habits. Because going back to smoking cessation, it's not just about putting down cigarettes. It's about creating a positive habit to kind of overwrite that prior habit. I can't just take the cigarettes away from somebody. I can't just take the food away from somebody. You have to transition it. You have to create a better choice, because your subconscious mind will always pick the better choice. And it's giving the subconscious, not the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, that choice to be able to do better. And it will always pick it, in my experience, because regardless of the way your conscious mind works, your subconscious mind always got your back. Your subconscious mind always has your best interests at heart. We don't always understand it as that, but it is always trying to preserve your well-being, for better or worse. And that's a whole can of worms with the for better or worse thing, but
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people can relate, because, like, if you're in high school and you waited till the night before the exam to study, didn't crack a book anytime before, but then you got an A on the test, you're like, oh,
mm-hmm.
I can just
That's
study
what
the
I
night
did.
before. And do what
I
I want the
didn't
rest of the
study.
time. But, yeah.
That's the bad habit I came into. I didn't study, I didn't take notes, and I still got A's on my quizzes. And that gave me bad associations. That said that I didn't have to do the extra work, that I could just pull this out and be fine. And yeah, that works sometimes, but that can, especially in adulthood, shoot you in the foot. It has. Excuse me.
So are most of your clients in person, or do you do any online clients, or a mixture of the two?
I work almost exclusively remote. And even after COVID died down a bit, which is why the hypnotherapy industry kind of went fully remote for a while to begin with, as many industries did, I kind of stayed remote because I kind of prefer it in terms of helping people with their problems. Because where are you more comfortable? In your home, in a familiar room, in a secure place, or at a strange office? And I find it much easier to allow people to relax and to focus when they're in their own environment. And so I have seen clients in person. I live in a very, very, very small town, so it's not terribly common. I live in a town of like 1,000 people, literally. Um, so remote work has absolutely saved my life because I would starve if I had to just find clients in my local area. But yeah, because of that, I have international clients. I work with people in India, Britain, Russia, Japan, all manner of places. Um, and it's neat that it allows me to do so. I I love that I have such a broad client base.
How do you find most of your clients?
Referral at this point is where a great deal many of my clients come from. The people that I have helped tell other people the change that I helped them with, and who isn't interested in that. And I don't like to advertise. A lot of my clients is from direct engagement, conversations I'll have online or in person. I it always trips out my friends whenever they go out to the store with me because on my own, I'm not a very social or talkative person, but I will absolutely talk to a cashier at a store anytime because I think I've gotten, I don't know how many clients just from speaking to a cashier at a store or someone casually like out and about. Like I said, the people that you're supposed to work with will find you. You'll find them. Uh, and anyone listening right now who is a coach or a hypnotherapist or anyone in the business of helping people, really take that to heart. Like you, once you once you really focus your intent, once you have that intent to help people, the people you're supposed to help will find you. Absolutely, they will cross your path. But that is the tricky question: is how do you find clients? Because it's depending on where you live, it could be very difficult.
Do you see a connection between hypnosis and meditation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, there is a huge amount of overlap. Sometimes identical, because what I mean by that is meditation is generally the alpha state. So your brain has different wavelengths. Uh, Alpha is relaxation, calm. Beta is attentiveness. Delta is sleep. And then you have theta, which is what I work with. Theta is kind of your brain's programming state. It's where you can actually change thoughts, behaviors, associations, etc. For my software nerds out there, it is the source code, basically. And working with that, sorry, I had a little brain fart here because I got a random text message and it distracted my ADHD. Where was I? Catch me up real fast.
Oh, you were talking about meditation and theta.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. All right. I'm a bit of like a squirrel sometimes, and that it doesn't take much to distract me unless I'm working with somebody. Meditation outside of the most advanced types of meditation, like transcendental meditation, tend to just be alpha state work. You are calling up and maintaining a high state of relaxation. Whereas hypnosis is generally bypassing alpha and going to theta, creating that programming state. So you do have to pass through alpha to go through theta, and people that are familiar with meditation, in my experience, tend to be pretty good hypnotic subjects because they've already gone most of the way down that path on their own. And many of the induction techniques will sound similar to guided meditation. There are subtle differences in those two things between guided meditation and hypnosis, but they are very, very similar.
Does this saying that you had on your website have a special meaning? It was the one that says, "Be the light for those who have lost." But you want me to just read it? It says, "Be the light for those who cannot see, the guide for those who are lost their way, and the peace for those who have forgotten." What
It's a
does that
mission
mean to
statement.
you?
It's a mission statement. It's my purpose. I am here to help people who don't know, who are lost, who need a change but don't know how. One of my other favorite quotes, which also almost made it as my mission statement, is I will help guide you out of darkness, but if you do not wish to go, I will sit with you and watch the stars. And one of the things I realized pretty early in my work was that I kind of had a role that I was fulfilling for people. And it's not necessarily as a guide. Like, I'm not leading anyone anywhere. It is simply, I don't know. Have you ever read Dante's Inferno?
I haven't read it specifically. I know I'm familiar with it though.
So Dante had Virgil, and Virgil's role was almost more as a companion. Like, yeah, he was helping Dante walk through this place, but his role was more familiar presence, a companion to help him on that journey. And that's kind of my role. Be the light for those that have lost their way, the peace for those that have forgotten, to help, be it through example or understanding or whatever have you, help people find their way again, because it goes back to the very beginning, that authenticity that we spoke of what is inauthentic thoughts and behavior, if not being lost, if not having lost your way or lost your core sense of self, again, that capital S self. And it's being that helper, being that companion, being that person to sit with somebody. Because people, and this is going to be a strange concept to some people listening, everyone has their own answers. Most of my clients have told me how to help them, have told me what they need, have told me their answers. They just need somebody to be there, to point out those answers that they just said, and to help them down that way. And so that's kind of why I picked that as my mission statement. Is I realized that that was my role, to be that person, to provide that beacon, I guess, for people to find their way. Because everyone knows where they're going and what they need. It's just some of us get really lost. I got really lost. And it's my being lost that kind of informs my practice. Because I have kind of a rough past. I've not always been a good person. And I had to kind of come to a reckoning with that when I started doing this. Because I never got any help. I never had that person to show me that peace, to provide that example, to guide me. And it caused a lot of trouble in me. And it really misguided me. And I realized that regardless of those things that I had been through in my past, that it was my role, it was my purpose to be that person that I needed and never got. Because that help that I needed so much growing up, that voice that I needed to hear, that understanding that I needed, I could be that. And not for myself, though a little bit for myself, but for other people. Because somebody out there feels the same thing I do. Somebody out there feels like they need help, but the right voice isn't out there to help them get it, to help them create that change. And it's that experience of being the man I used to be, of not getting help when I needed it, that really helps me help people. It informs the type of hypnotherapist I want to be. And that's where that mission statement comes from, is kind of being that person that was lost, that didn't have their peace, and not using that to become bitter anymore, but using that as a purpose to help people, as a framework to be able to help people. So not a lot of people ask about that one.
Yeah, I just saw the quote on your website and thought, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask about it, but so where can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
The best way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is www.twinravens.org. You can go there and find many of my previous interviews. There's some Q&A sections, some resources. There is a way to set up a consultation with me directly. If you wish to speak to me about what's going on, my consultation call is free of charge. And it's just 15 minutes for us to talk, discuss how I can help, what's up with you, give you a chance to ask me questions, things like that. Or alternatively, you can just reach out to me directly, either via email at jparker, just the letter J, PARKER, at twinravens.org, or simply call me at the office. My office number is 501-365-1969. The calling's not the best option, though you might get lucky and catch me, because obviously if I'm in session, I won't be able to answer my phone, but I will return your call as soon as I can. Well, that sounded like identical to my voice message. That's wild. But yeah, I encourage anyone who wants change, who wants to know more about what I do, to reach out. Like I said, that consultation call is free of charge. There is no obligation just by talking to me, and I encourage everyone to reach out, talk to me, tell me what's up, see how I can help. So yeah, I'm easy to get a hold of. If you look, Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy and Research again is my practice name.
So is there one final word you'd like to leave with the audience before we close out?
Yeah, actually. So there is a quote that I very much love, which is, when you label me, you deny me. And what does that mean? That means that when you label something, yourself, others, whatever have you, you create an understanding, an identity. When you say to yourself, I am depressed, you have told your subconscious mind an identity to give it. You are depressed. But you are not that. You are a subject, not an object. You cannot be defined by a label. And so I encourage everyone in their day-to-day life to work on removing those labels that they put on themselves, that they put on others. You are not depressed. You feel depressed in certain situations. This person is not an asshole. This person kind of does mean things whenever they are put in this situation. You are not your labels. You never will be. And changing that understanding can change your world. Because when you begin to change your questions, you change your life. And part of those questions is how you label the things around you. So just remember that. When you change your questions, you change your life. So yeah,
Well, thanks
thank
for
you very
coming
much
on
for having
today.
me
It
on.
was a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. It was a pleasure talking to you.